Hey everyone, it's Marie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm making a card using some of this surface ink from Pink and Main. I'm using the color Cobblestone, which is kind of a light gray, a warm gray, and I'm using this Pugly stencil from Brutus Monroe. Now I'm going to be doing a sort of a tone-on-tone ink blending. I'm going to use one color of ink and do some blending over the stencil and just on its own to kind of get a different sort of look for the background. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm speeding up this part because it does take a little bit of a time to do all of the blending, and I think you get the general idea even when you're just watching it in fast motion. So I'm just taking some of this ink here, I'm blending it on my card, and I just want to put the color towards the top of my card and have it sort of gradually fade out. Now that I have some of my color down, I'm taking my stencil and some painter's tape just to tape my stencil in place so that it doesn't move while I'm blending over the top. And I'm going to take the same color of ink and just blend over this stencil. Now this is going to make sort of an effect of tone-on-tone blending where you've got some of that color on the top of the card, and then these stripes, I kind of wanted it to look like they were coming out of that color on the top and sort of just fading out to the bottom. So I'm just taking my ink, my blending tool, and adding some over this stencil. I'm kind of going up and down so that I don't get the stencil moving a whole lot. I'm just following those stripes there. I really love this stencil from Brutus Monroe. I think the Pugsley stencil is one of my favorites. I just love those sort of jagged stripes. So here is my background, how it kind of looks. I wanted it to look a little bit darker on the top, so I went back in with some more of that ink to blend it over the stripes to kind of make it look like they're sort of coming out of that color on the top. So when I was happy with that, I went and I grabbed some of my, well, first I grabbed my watercolor brush, and it's from Royal and Nicole, and I've grabbed some of my powdered elements from Brutus Monroe. This is the gilded powdered elements. It is the gold color, and it's really shiny and really gorgeous. And I'm taking a little bit of water from one of my little misters, and I'm just adding a little bit of water to this powdered elements. I love these powdered elements that you can add water to because then you can paint with them, watercolor with them, and I'm just using it today with my paintbrush to kind of flick on a little bit of splatters to the background. I just wanted to add a little bit more texture, a little bit more visual interest, and when it dries you're going to get some of that shimmer from the powdered elements, so I thought it was really fun. Now I'm using some Rinea foil, and this is in the gilded color as well. It coordinates with Brutus Monroe's gilded embossing powders and powdered elements, and I'm going to be die cutting it. Now I'm using a Tim Holtz set. I think it's called Tiny Florals or Tattered Florals, and there's a ton of tiny little dies in there. So I was just showing you a second ago how I divided the dies into little Ziploc bags to kind of put the different flowers that go together, and it saves me time when I grab this set that I just open one of the little bags and I pour out the flowers that go together, and I don't have to sift through all of the dies and search for the specific ones I'm looking for. It just kind of keeps it a little bit more organized. And then I'm just going to arrange them on this foil paper and die cut them. And I cut a lot of these flowers because I'm filling the front of my card with a ton of these flowers. So now you can see I have all my flowers die cut. I stacked them, I assembled them with little brad in the center, and I'm going to sort of arrange them on the front of my card along with the branch from the die set. I cut the branch twice. And I also cut the word hello from a L'Enfant scripty die. I cut it 5 times, and I'm just stacking each of these words on top of each other and just building them up so that it adds dimension without having to cut a bunch of tiny little strips of foam adhesive. It's also going to make this die cut a lot sturdier when I add it to the card, since it's going to have that even background to it. It's not going to sag in between any foam adhesive that I would cut to go on the back. It's just going to make it a really sturdy, thick sentiment. So I'm just using my Zig glue pen and just stacking these up. Now once I had my sentiment all stacked and glued together, I'm going to be adding just a little bit of color to the bottom. And I'm using some more Pink and Main surface inks. I think this is Evening Sky. And I'm just taking my ink blending tool and blending a little bit on just the bottom of this die cut. And that gives you kind of an ombre look, where it goes from dark color up to the white of the die cut, and it's just a really fun, different look and a different way to color your die. I thought it looked really nice with this purple against the gray, so I went ahead and I'm adding some Tombow glue just to glue this die into place. And I'm also going to glue all of those little flowers and the branches on as well using my Tombow glue. Now the foil is you are definitely able to glue it with this liquid glue. I will have to say, since it's not as porous as regular paper and the glue doesn't sink into the paper, it takes a little bit longer for the glue to dry and for these to dry into place. So what I did is I put them all in place, and they tend to like to slip around a little bit with that liquid glue. But after I got them where I wanted them, I put one of my acrylic blocks over the top, and that just held it in place while it dried. So that's a little something that you might want to keep in mind when working with this paper. Just make sure they stay in place while they're drying. I also added some leaves here and there to kind of balance out all of the flowers. But you can see this front panel is kind of finished. I also added a few sequins to just add a little bit more sparkle because the paper isn't shiny enough. But I took that whole panel and then I was going to go and adhere it down to my card base. It's probably better to adhere it down before you embellish it, but I have this bad habit of always embellishing it and then adhering it afterwards. So I always forget, but you probably should adhere it to the front before you put all the flowers and sequins on. But I just took my ATG gun and I put a bunch of adhesive on my card front, and now I'm just adding my card panel on the front of that. And the glue is still a little bit wet with those flowers, so I'm trying to be careful not to slide them around. And you can see I added that acrylic block on the front. So that finishes the card. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, or comment. I love to hear any of your comments or questions that you might have. Please visit my blog post for more information, and I will catch you next time. Bye!